Did Honda just make a move that could shatter the motorcycle industry? Dealers are furious. Riders feel betrayed. Production moves and escalating tariffs have sparked a backlash that threatens Honda's reputation. Can the brand survive, or is this the beginning of a motorcycle market collapse? What's happening? For decades, Honda dealerships didn't just sell motorcycles, they sold an illusion. It wasn't just about the bikes themselves, but rather the perception of value that they carefully crafted over years. They convinced loyal riders that paying more was not just acceptable, but reasonable. The illusion was so masterfully constructed that even seasoned bikers fell for it. It all started with gradual price hikes. Unlike sudden jumps that would have sparked outrage, these increases were slow, almost imperceptible. Dealerships labeled them as market adjustments and attributed the rises to external factors like increased material costs or limited availability. This wasn't entirely false. Global supply chain issues did impact pricing. But instead of merely passing on the extra costs, dealerships saw an opportunity. They didn't just recoup their expenses, they made a profit, while conditioning buyers to see inflated prices as the new normal. One of the most telling examples came during the pandemic. Supply chains worldwide were disrupted, leading to genuine shortages. Honda dealerships, however, took advantage of the chaos, labeling bikes with limited edition tags and tacking on thousands of dollars in fees. Buyers, fearing they would miss out, paid the marked up prices without question. Over time, these tactics shifted what was once considered overpriced into what riders simply accepted as the standard. The illusion worked until it didn't. Once buyers began comparing notes, they realized they had been conditioned, not convinced. Social media played a huge role in breaking the spell as riders shared receipts, stories, and frustrations. Suddenly, Honda's carefully constructed illusion of value shattered, and dealerships faced the harsh reality. Riders were done being fooled. But when the bubble finally burst, Honda's reputation crumbled. The loan trap. Buying a Honda motorcycle used to feel like buying freedom, a way to hit the open road and escape the grind. But for many, that feeling didn't last. Instead of liberation, riders found themselves chained to suffocating loans, drowning in payments that seemed never-ending. The problem wasn't the bikes themselves, it was the way they were sold. Financing had always been an option, but as prices rose, dealerships leaned heavily on long-term loans to make monthly payments seem manageable. A $25,000 bike could suddenly be yours for only $300 a month. What they didn't tell you was that the low payments came with high interest rates, stretching the loan term to 7 years or more. The trap wasn't immediately obvious. Most buyers didn't have $25,000 in cash, so financing seemed practical. What wasn't clear was how much extra they were paying. A 7-year loan at 8% interest could easily double the cost of the bike. And that wasn't all. Hidden within the loan agreements were fees labeled as loan origination or insurance coverage. They looked official, but they were pure profit for the dealership. Some buyers learned this the hard way. One rider shared his story on a forum. His $22,000 bike ended up costing over $40,000 by the time he made the final payment. The realization hit hard. He had been so focused on the manageable monthly cost that he didn't see how the interest and fees stacked up over time. The dealerships framed it as doing buyers a favor. We'll help you get your dream bike today. In reality, they were trapping riders in debt they couldn't escape from. And when buyers realized they were buried in payments with a bike worth half of what they owed, the sense of betrayal was overwhelming. While riders struggled to keep up with payments, dealerships played another dirty trick. Don't get ripped off at the shop. Our favorite gear picks are linked in the description. Hidden fees. If you've ever bought a Honda bike, you know that the sticker price is just the beginning. What looks like a fair deal on the surface quickly balloons as fees pile on. It's not just 1 or 2 charges, it's a calculated maze designed to leave buyers wondering how a $20,000 motorcycle became a $25,000 headache. The trick lies in the terminology. Dealerships don't call them extra costs. Instead, they use terms like destination charges, dealer prep fees, and market adjustments. These fees often aren't itemized until the final paperwork, leaving buyers shocked when the total appears. And by that point, most feel too committed to back out. One particularly shady practice is charging for dealer-installed accessories. Buyers might assume these are extras they requested, but often they're just standard items that the dealership marked up. Even something as basic as a windshield could come with a $100 installation fee. And if you refuse to pay, some dealerships will flat out refuse to sell the bike. The most infuriating part is the illusion of scarcity. Dealers will tell you that a bike is in high demand, that they're selling fast, and that fees are non-negotiable. They play on fear, the fear of missing out. But behind the scenes, the same model might be sitting in the back lot, waiting to be re-released when buyers panic. Dealerships count on riders not questioning these fees. The logic is simple. After spending hours in negotiations, most buyers are too exhausted to argue over a few $100s. But those few hundred can add up to thousands, especially when bundled with extended warranties and service plans that offer minimal coverage. As more riders compared their purchase experiences online, the pattern became undeniable. It wasn't just one rogue dealership, it was an industry-wide practice designed to squeeze every last dollar from loyal customers. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Honda's biggest mistake came to light. We pulled service records, dissected financing traps, and surfed more forums than we care to admit. If that's not worth a subscribe, what is? Hit the button. We've earned it. Riders revolt. When riders had enough, they didn't protest. They simply walked away. The Honda dealership model didn't just lose trust, it lost customers. What started as a few disgruntled buyers quickly became a movement. Social media lit up with stories of inflated prices, deceptive loans, and hidden fees. Instead of complaining, riders took action. They stopped buying. They didn't go to the dealerships to confront managers or stage protests. Instead, they turned to the used market. Older bikes, already paid off and often better maintained, became the new hot commodity. Riders started swapping tips on how to inspect used models, how to negotiate with private sellers, and how to avoid the dealership trap entirely. The movement wasn't loud, it was quiet but persistent. Honda dealerships across the country reported a significant drop in foot traffic. Inventory that once moved within weeks began collecting dust. Some dealerships even tried lowering prices, but it was too late. The damage was done. Riders had made their choice. This silent boycott didn't just hurt sales, it shattered the illusion of dealership control. The message was clear. Riders wouldn't pay for overpriced bikes or predatory loans anymore. Honda dealerships, once thriving hubs of community and commerce, were now ghost towns. But just as dealerships began to feel the pressure, a bigger threat loomed on the horizon. Death of the dealership. Riders cut out the middleman. Who needs dealerships when buying from your neighbor is easier and cheaper? As dealership practices became increasingly aggressive and prices soared, riders began seeking alternatives. The most obvious one was right in front of them, buying directly from other riders. The rise of digital marketplaces and peer-to-peer platforms revolutionized motorcycle sales. Sites like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and dedicated motorcycle forums became hotspots for transactions. Riders found that buying used bikes directly from private sellers was not only cheaper but also far more straightforward. There were no hidden fees, no deceptive financing plans, just cash for a bike, plain and simple. Honda noticed this trend and tried to fight back by launching online-only offers for select models, allowing riders to bypass dealerships altogether. However, the move backfired. Customers who already felt betrayed by dealers weren't quick to trust an online-only scheme orchestrated by the same brand. Instead of reconnecting with their base, Honda's attempt only highlighted how disconnected they had become from the modern rider's mindset. What dealerships failed to realize was that riders weren't just looking for better prices, they wanted control. Dealerships, with their high-pressure environments and rigid policies, felt outdated in a world where a bike purchase could be completed with a few clicks. Private sales offered not just affordability, but also freedom from the dealership grind. Riders could inspect the bike themselves, negotiate directly, and walk away with a sense of satisfaction that no dealership could match. As dealerships watched their customer base shrink, some tried to evolve by offering online financing or home delivery options. Yet, it was too little, too late. Riders had tasted the convenience and transparency of direct transactions, and there was no going back. While dealerships struggled to keep up, another problem was brewing on the production line. You've made it this far, through hidden fees, predatory loans, and digital snake oil. You're basically part of the team now. So hit subscribe or we'll send a dealership contract your way. The tech trap. Why high-tech bikes are driving riders away. What good is a high-tech bike if it breaks down every other ride? As Honda pushed for more advanced motorcycles, they began to lose sight of the one thing riders valued most: reliability. High-tech dashboards, Bluetooth connectivity, advanced traction control, and semi-active suspensions sounded impressive in the marketing brochures. However, in practice, these features became a nightmare for many riders. Glitchy software updates bricked entire systems. Infotainment screens froze mid-ride, and complex diagnostic errors forced riders to return to dealerships just to reset a warning light. Riders soon realized that while these features were meant to modernize the riding experience, they often created more problems than they solved. Traditional bikers, who preferred a machine they could fix with a wrench, found themselves overwhelmed by electronics that required a specialized technician to diagnose. The very essence of motorcycling, freedom and simplicity, was being replaced with high-maintenance tech and software glitches. The irony was glaring. Honda, known for its legendary durability, was now at the forefront of a technological shift that alienated its most loyal customers. While some younger riders enjoyed the high-tech flair, many longtime enthusiasts felt betrayed. They didn't want a motorcycle that felt more like a smartphone on wheels. They wanted the raw, unfiltered riding experience that Honda used to deliver. Dealerships didn't help matters either. Instead of offering support, they often blamed riders for the malfunctions, claiming improper use or lack of maintenance. Frustrated customers left with a bitter taste, realizing that the promise of innovation came with a hefty price, both financially and emotionally. But the real shock was yet to come as Honda's most loyal customers started walking away. The legacy problem. Has Honda lost its way? How did a brand built on reliability become known for high prices and high tech? This is the question Honda enthusiasts are grappling with as they watch their once beloved brand drift further from its roots. For decades, Honda was synonymous with practicality, affordability, and reliability. The company built its reputation on creating motorcycles that were not just functional, but also accessible to the average rider. From the iconic Honda CB750 to the humble Honda Cub, the brand became a staple of everyday riding, cherished for its simplicity and durability. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Honda's slow transformation from practicality to luxury pricing did not happen overnight. It began subtly, with the introduction of higher-tech models and features that, while innovative, came with a steep price tag. Advanced electronics, integrated infotainment systems, and performance upgrades slowly pushed the cost of ownership out of reach for many longtime fans. What was once considered the reliable, budget-friendly option has morphed into a more premium, high-maintenance product line. The shift did not go unnoticed. Loyal riders who had grown up with Honda's dependable bikes started to feel alienated. Instead of affordable workhorses, they saw a lineup that catered to niche markets and tech enthusiasts rather than the core community of practical riders. For many, this change felt like a betrayal. Honda, once the brand that symbolized uncomplicated freedom, was now charging premium prices for features that riders did not necessarily want or need. This transformation did more than just affect sales figures. It shattered a long-held image. The brand that once embodied practical motorcycling seemed to have lost its way, prioritizing innovation over identity. As riders looked around for alternatives, they began to question whether Honda could still be the brand they once trusted. The painful realization set in. Honda may have outgrown its own core identity, leaving its most loyal followers behind. As Honda struggles to redefine itself, its competitors are moving in for the kill. Grassroots movements. Local shops fight back. When dealerships failed, the community stepped up. As Honda's corporate strategy faltered, a new hero emerged: the local motorcycle garage. While dealerships pushed luxury models and complicated financing, grassroots mechanics focused on what truly mattered: keeping bikes on the road without emptying wallets. Across the country, small garages and independent mechanics found themselves unexpectedly in the spotlight. Riders, fed up with inflated prices and poor service at official dealerships, began to turn to their local mechanics for help. These shops, often operating on tight margins, became hubs of community support. They offered low-cost repairs, parts scavenging, and even customizations that made bikes more reliable without the heavy-handed tech upgrades. Riders appreciated the straightforward service and the sense of loyalty that came from being treated as more than just a sales figure. Mechanics who once struggled to find consistent work suddenly found their skills in high demand. They were not just fixing bikes, they were restoring faith in the motorcycling community. Word spread quickly. These local garages were not just places to repair motorcycles, they were places to reclaim the spirit of riding. In contrast to the dealership experience, where sales pressure and fees dominated the conversation, these small shops felt honest, personal, and committed to riders' needs. The rise of grassroots motorcycle culture highlighted a crucial divide. While Honda was trying to reposition itself as a premium brand, local mechanics were holding on to the values that made the company popular in the first place: affordability, reliability, and community support. Riders appreciated the simple, no-nonsense approach and began to favor these shops over corporate dealerships, especially as the latter continued to push expensive models and complex financing deals. The community spirit did more than just boost local businesses. It challenged the very notion that dealerships were essential. As these independent shops thrived, it became clear that Honda's move towards premium pricing had opened a gap, one that local mechanics were more than happy to fill. And while local shops thrived, Honda's corporate strategy took a sharp turn. Brand redemption. Can Honda restore its image? After years of lost trust, can Honda rebuild its reputation from the ground up? This question looms large as the company finally acknowledges the disconnect between its brand identity and its core customer base. Realizing that they had pushed too far into the luxury segment, Honda's executives have begun to strategize a path back to their roots. But will it be enough? Honda's first move has been to reconnect with its loyal riders through community engagement initiatives. Instead of focusing solely on innovation, they have begun hosting local events where riders can give direct feedback to corporate representatives. From small meetups at dealerships to larger gatherings at motorcycle shows, Honda is actively listening to what riders really want: practical, dependable bikes that do not break the bank. New marketing campaigns have also shifted focus, emphasizing the affordability and reliability that originally made Honda famous. Instead of flashy tech demos, recent ads feature stories from longtime owners who have put hundreds of thousands of miles on their bikes. These riders speak about how their Hondas have been there through thick and thin, reinforcing the message that reliability is still a core value. In terms of product strategy, Honda is also making adjustments. While they are not completely abandoning high-tech models, they are introducing a new line of more straightforward bikes. Machines designed with fewer electronics and a focus on mechanical reliability. These models aim to bridge the gap between modern innovation and the classic Honda ethos. Yet the challenge remains. How can Honda rebuild trust when many feel betrayed by years of price hikes and tech overload? The answer may lie in transparency. By openly admitting past mistakes and committing to practical improvements, Honda hopes to demonstrate that they still value the everyday rider. But only time will tell whether this approach will win back those who have already moved on to other brands. Honda's path forward has never been more uncertain. Economic nationalism versus globalization, the ideological clash. Is punishing Honda for offshoring the answer, or is globalization too deep to reverse? That is the fundamental question dividing not just policymakers, but the entire automotive industry. On one side, economic nationalism advocates argue that companies like Honda must be held accountable for moving production overseas. Their stance is clear. American jobs belong on American soil, and any deviation from that principle is a betrayal. This ideology aligns closely with recent political rhetoric emphasizing the need to bring manufacturing back to the United States, penalizing corporations that choose cheaper labor abroad. However, the reality is far more complex. Globalization is not just an economic trend, it is an embedded system. Over the past 5 decades, multinational corporations have meticulously woven global supply chains into the very fabric of their business models. Honda, like many automotive giants, is deeply entrenched in this web, relying on parts from Japan, assembly lines in Mexico, and distribution networks spanning Europe and Asia. Trying to reverse this trend through tariffs and penalties might sound appealing to some, but it disregards decades of strategic evolution and international collaboration. Historically, attempts to force manufacturing back to the United States have met with mixed results. While punitive tariffs can indeed make foreign production less attractive, they do not guarantee that companies will relocate jobs to American soil. Instead, they often lead to higher consumer prices and force companies to reconsider their entire production strategy. In some cases, businesses have chosen to automate rather than repatriate, leaving American workers with neither the jobs nor the cheaper goods that were promised. The ideological clash here is not just about Honda, it represents a broader conflict between economic nationalism and globalization. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, isolating one economy from the global network becomes more and more impractical. The question remains, is punishing Honda for leveraging globalization a strategic move or a short-sighted backlash against a reality that cannot be reversed? As the ideological battle rages on, the political consequences grow more intense. The political fallout. A divided electorate. Will Honda's choices cost it the loyalty of rural voters? This is the pressing question as Honda, a brand historically rooted in reliability and affordability, faces a growing backlash from the very communities that once embraced it. Rural areas across America, particularly in states where motorcycle culture runs deep, are beginning to reconsider their long-standing loyalty. The perception of betrayal is palpable, especially among those who relied on Honda dealerships for not just bikes, but community support and economic stability. For decades, Honda has been seen as a dependable, workmanlike brand, one that offers practicality without the price tag of luxury competitors. In rural communities, Hondas were not just vehicles, they were symbols of everyday resilience. But now, with Honda moving some production lines overseas, the reaction has been swift and unforgiving. In states like Alabama, Mississippi, and Ohio, places where manufacturing jobs are a critical part of the local economy, riders are questioning whether Honda still represents their values. The political fallout is particularly significant in swing states, where voter sentiment can change the outcome of national elections. Political analysts are already predicting a shift in voting patterns as the Honda controversy becomes a talking point among rural conservatives who feel abandoned. Traditionally, these voters might have supported economic policies that encouraged business growth, but the perceived betrayal by a once trusted brand could lead to unexpected political consequences. As midterm elections approach, candidates are scrambling to position themselves on the Honda issue. Some are capitalizing on the controversy to advocate for stricter trade policies, while others caution against overreaction, warning that such measures might only drive more companies out of the United States. This divide is not just ideological, it is deeply personal for those who feel left behind by globalization and abandoned by the brands they once supported. And as the political landscape shifts, Honda faces an even tougher question. Can Honda survive the backlash? Honda's reputation is on the line, but can the brand survive the backlash? As the criticism mounts, Honda is not sitting idly by. The company has launched an aggressive public relations campaign aimed at reassuring its core customers that Honda remains committed to quality and reliability, regardless of where the production lines are located. In press releases and public statements, Honda executives emphasized that the decision to move certain production processes overseas was not made lightly but was necessary to maintain competitive pricing and ensure long-term viability. One of Honda's key strategies is to reconnect with the community through local sponsorships and outreach programs, attempting to rebuild the trust that has been eroded by recent decisions. Honda has also made efforts to improve transparency by offering detailed explanations of its global production strategy, highlighting how maintaining cost efficiency can ultimately benefit consumers through lower prices. In addition, Honda is exploring hybrid sales models that incorporate both traditional dealership involvement and direct-to-consumer online sales. This approach aims to appease both the traditional buyers who value personal dealership relationships and the modern consumers who prefer the convenience of online transactions. By balancing these models, Honda hopes to maintain a strong presence in the American market without alienating its core demographic. However, the big question remains: can Honda's adaptive strategies effectively counter the damage done to its reputation? While the company is making calculated moves to mitigate backlash, it is clear that winning back customer loyalty will require consistent, tangible changes rather than just well-crafted messaging. But while Honda fights to rebuild its image, the future of the entire motorcycle industry hangs in the balance. The final verdict: the future of motorcycle dealerships. Can dealerships survive in a world where riders no longer trust them? This is the stark reality facing motorcycle dealerships across America. The traditional model of pushing sales through face-to-face interactions and incentivizing buyers with add-ons is falling apart as more riders turn to direct-to-consumer purchases. Dealerships that were once the heart of the motorcycle community now find themselves seen as relics of a past era, struggling to adapt to rapidly changing consumer expectations. Long-term predictions suggest that if dealerships want to survive, they will need to drastically evolve. One possible direction is transforming into service hubs rather than solely relying on sales. Instead of pushing high-pressure buying experiences, dealerships could focus on maintenance, customization, and community engagement. This would allow them to stay relevant even as bike sales move online. Moreover, the shift toward online sales and private exchanges is irreversible. Manufacturers like Harley-Davidson and BMW have already begun experimenting with direct online sales, bypassing the dealership entirely. If this model becomes the norm, dealerships will need to pivot toward offering unique value that cannot be replicated online, such as personalized maintenance plans or exclusive local riding events. But the most profound change may come from the riders themselves. A new generation of motorcycle enthusiasts is more informed, skeptical, and digitally connected than ever before. These riders are not just looking for bikes, they are looking for fair deals and straightforward interactions. Dealerships that refuse to adapt to this new mindset risk becoming irrelevant. This fight isn't just about Honda, it's about the survival of motorcycle culture itself. They built the illusion. We broke it. Now it's your move. Hit the like button and subscribe if you're done being fooled and want the truth every time. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.